Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Back at my vice again, and this time we are going to be tying a damselfly nymph, but one with no flash. For those of you that follow me on Instagram, you'll see that with my damsel nymphs particularly, I like a bit of glint and glamour in the fly just to catch the eye of the fish, I guess, and trigger that aggressive take. This one is not that. It's more understated. It's got a bit of weight to get it down and provide that nice up and down jiggy movement, but there's no flash. So it's on a day when the fish have seen a bit of pressure, or you just want something that's slightly understated. It works really, really well for me, fished slow with a figure of 8 retrieve. The takes are pretty savage, especially over weed beds. So let's get on and tie it. As you can see in the vise, I've got a hook. This is a Togens Nymph Competition Barbless in size 12, and I have paired that with a Togens Tungsten Green Magic Bead in size 2.8mm. The thread we're using is going to be UTC 70 in fluorescent chartreuse. To be honest, you don't have to use that, but I would strongly recommend a contrasting colour of thread versus the green marabou tail that we're going to be tying in a bit. So the first thing you do is catch your thread onto the hook and then build a thread down behind the bead, partly to stabilise the bead whilst you're tying, but also because the thread is going to be the body and we want a nice taper, a nice carrot shape up to the bead. So we're going to start that now and we can build on it. And when you've got to that point, we're going to be tying in the tail, which is medium olive marabou. And you sort of rip the feather from the stem. Sorry, I can't get my words out today. And then line up the butts, cut off the curlies, and pull away all the fuzz just to create a little less bulk. And then I tie my tails on behind the bead, pinch and loop to make sure it doesn't roll round, and then wrap right up to the bead, and then we're going to go all the way down. And by tying the marabou in from the bead back down to the bend of the hook, it means you can lift it up slightly and always keep it on top of the hook. The thread wraps, the tension from those thread wraps is not going to take the marabou round the wrong side of the hook. There we are. When we get to the bend, what we're going to do is do 2 or 3 wraps just underneath the marabou to minimise the risk of it wrapping around the hook bend during casting or retrieving. And then we're going to pinch the marabou, and I like my marabou to be probably no more than 1.5 hooks in length, so I'm going to go to that first material clip line on my wonderful HMH vise and pinch off the marabou. There we go, perfect. And now we're going to build the body, and with this fluorescent chartreuse thread, it sort of starts dark, and I don't want it absolutely in your face fluorescent. We're just going to build that carrot shape, go down, work your way back up again, all more or less touching turns, but not as far each time. There we go, spin your bobbin just to uncord it. As you can see, the thread colour's lightening up nicely. And once you're happy with the shape of your body, and I am pretty happy with that, uncord your thread again and then go all the way down, because what this will do is it flattens the thread, which means it'll slip into any lumps and bumps there might be. So go all the way down to where you tied in the marabou. Uncord your thread again and then go all the way back up. There we go. Fab. Okay, all that's really left to do now is tie a hackle in. I'll say there's no rib, there's very little on this fly, So the hackle is English partridge. We're going to tie that in by the tip. So as you can see, I've stripped all the fuzzies away. I've got my little tying end point there. I am just going to wax my thread so it doesn't slip out. The most annoying thing in the world is when you're trying to tie in a feather and it slips out. Offer that up, not like that. There we go. And then 2 or 3 wraps to tie in. And now the hackle, it's, to be honest, the thickness of the hackle, A, is down to the quality of the feather you've got, and B, is down to your personal preference. This is your fly. But lick your fingers, as you've seen in most of my videos with feathers, pull those fibres back so that you're wrapping the stem of the feather around and you're trapping as few hackle fibres as possible. Here we go, like that. And you want the hackle to be slightly oversized, as you can see here, because it's designed to cloak the fly as it swims. That's enough for me. So bring the thread through. Try and pull as many fibres back from the eye as possible. So we're going in front of that now. There we go. One more behind. And we can think about snipping it off. And what I like to do, because there's a danger of snipping the thread, I put a tiny little V in the point of my scissors, and I'll put the stem of the feather in that V and just push the scissors. I don't snip, I don't cut anything then. All I'm doing is using the sharpness of the scissors to effectively cut the partridge. And then we want a few wraps on top of that just to cinch it down, and then a whip finish. I like to do 2 whip finishes just to be safe. You can of course varnish your thread or put a little bit of resin on the thread, but I've never needed that. Just a little collar of thread there, pull it tight, make sure the knot is settled well. Snip off your thread, and that's it. My Dull Damsel. Give it a go. Let me know how it fishes. It works really, really well for me. As I say, fished over weed beds or just left to sink through the water column and then retrieve back really slowly. But give it a stab and let me know. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much.